Hi everyone, welcome back to She Blurbs podcast. Today's guest is Cat Rambo. Hi Cat, welcome to my welcome to my podcast.
Hello.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a fantasy and science fiction writer. I do both short stories and novels, and I won a Nebula Award recently. I don't know, there's a lot of little facts. I like to garden.
I want to start out by asking you, how did you feel when you won the Nebula Award? I saw that you won an award.
It was really weird because you know how sometimes you talk yourself out of something. You're like, this is going to happen, but no way, So like I was like, yeah, it's an honor to be nominated, and I was like, okay, now what? I'm going to have to smile when the other person wins, and then it was really funny. They said it was me, and I was just like, my jaw dropped.
You was like, no way.
It was a total surprise. It was awesome. I was so pleased. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, when did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
When I was a kid, my grandmother wrote young adult fiction. She wrote YA sports novels, and it was always assumed that I would follow in her footsteps. And luckily, I was okay with that because I loved to read and knew that I wanted to write.
That's amazing. So where do you get your ideas from when you think of your stories?
Oh, all over the place. Today's news is often rich.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I like to read a lot. And sometimes I just go for a long walk and all sorts of ideas swarm into my head.
Wow, that's amazing. My ideas come when I'm asleep in bed. So I'm
Wow.
like, I need to sleep with a pen and paper.
That's you got to do that, or otherwise you wake up in the morning and you're like, I thought of a really good idea.
Yep, and then it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. But you remember it was super good.
Yeah. So when did what does your family think about your writing?
My mother is a huge fan. She had never read fantasy and science fiction before I started writing it, and so she does love mystery and romance and thrillers. So she's been reading it, and in fact, this weekend I'm going to go speak to her book group, which will be at the Senior Center, via Zoom. And my brother has been super supportive, and my dad before he passed. Everybody has been super, super supportive.
That's amazing. So can you give our listeners like a brief summary of a few of your novels?
The book that I have coming out in September is called You Sexy Thing, and it is a space opera. And the way they've been describing it is Farscape meets the Great British Bake Off. There's a restaurant in space, and there's a lot of adventures. The piece that I won the Nebula Award for, Carpe Glitter, I happen to have a copy here, is about a young woman who goes to clear out her grandmother's houses. And her grandmother was not just a hoarder, but just a huge hoarder, and also was a stage magician. And so in the course of sorting through things, she finds out things about her past that she had not known.
Nice. That's amazing. And we can purchase them on your website that's linking below?
Yep, absolutely. Or on Amazon, or just about, or I feel people should feel free to request them through your library. That's one of the things I've been suggesting to people, is if you don't have the budget for books, request to the library. That's awesome.
Yes, definitely. So who are a few of your favorite authors, and have any of them inspired any of your novels?
Oh yeah. The most, I just had a fantasy novel come out, Exiles of Tibet, which is about intelligent magical creatures in a world that depends on their work, their labor, and their bodies sometimes to sort of drive its economy, which sounds sort of gruesome, and it is, and it's very political. But it's also very much based on, there's a writer called Theodore Sturgeon, who I read a lot of when I was in high school, who wrote about minotaurs and centaurs and unicorns and made them come alive to me. Another writer who I absolutely adore is Ursula K. Le Guin, who wrote not just novels, but a bunch of really good short stories. She's one of those people that I read and I'm kind of like, oh, it's so good, but I hate you because it's so good, right? And what have I been reading lately? I've been reading some fantasy by K.J. Parker, which is, I don't know why I like it so much. It's about sort of like the strategic and economics of wars, but he makes it really interesting because you see the people that are driving this massive war. So, yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. So, what was your hardest scene to write and why?
My hardest scene to write. I think in Carpe Glitter, it's been hard to write the stuff with family, right? And that book is very much about sort of grandmother and mother and myself. And I think, there are pieces of my family dynamic in there, but there's also fiction, right? And I think there's that kind of weird balance between pulling from your experiences to create fiction, but also being aware it's fiction, right? And you can mess around with it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What advice would you give to help others who want to pursue a writing career?
I would say give yourself permission to write terrible first drafts, because everybody writes terrible first drafts. And if you sit down and you look at the blank page and you're like, I must make art, I think that's a really good way to paralyze yourself, right? You can't make it perfect, so you don't even start. So that's one of my biggies, is give yourself permission to just write total crap, because you can always do it better.
That's true. Yep. Like a lot of the authors that I've interviewed so far, they have said the same thing. Like, just write, and don't stop. Just write, and then you can go over it and take stuff out and add stuff in, so and make it better. So I was like, okay. But what do you enjoy doing when you're not writing?
I like to garden. I have a huge number of house plants that any human being should have. And I'm really excited right now. Do you know what a pitcher plant is?
No.
It's a carnivorous plant. And so like it creates these, its blossoms are like these little pitchers full of sap that insects fall into. And my pitcher plant is creating its first actual pitcher. It's about to open, so I'm very excited.
Wow, that's nice. Like my mom and my grandmother, they collect plants, and their plants like go all over the wall. Like they like the real big plants, and they're just like all over the wall, all over the floors. I'm like looking at their house. I'm like, why are there plants everywhere?
They just keep growing. What?
Huh? Oh, I like poinsettias, but I didn't know that cats can't be around them. I put mine right next to my cat. My cat was just like sniffing it and trying to eat it. And I'm like, why is she doing that? So I had to take it out of the room. I didn't even know that cats couldn't be around it.
Yeah. But you have to be careful, because there's some stuff that you don't expect cats to be allergic to, like onions. They are incredibly allergic to onions, which I didn't know until I had a sick cat.
Man, my cat got real skinny, and I was like, why is she getting real skinny? So I panicked and took her to the vet. And they was like, did you have poinsettias by her? And I'm like, yeah. And it was like, take it away from her. And I'm like, okay. So I threw them all away.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on my show today, Kat, and interviewing with me.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for the chance to do so.
You have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you so much for supporting my podcast and so much for the likes, the comments, and the shares. If you would like to check out any of Kat's books or what she's doing or her plans or anything you want to check out about Kat, you can go to the link that I have tinkering below. That's her website. You can go and check out her books, check out her awards, just her website, what she has on her website. I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview, and I hope you all have a great day.